He showed me a shot. I said, look, 12 million followers. And in between that, I got into Uber, actually. Some stuff was interesting, some stuff was illegal. And I got into a car accident. Next thing I know, I'm in a room full of all these Broadway people. You know?
Hey there, Tall Man Clan. Today we are with, well, you probably know who this is. This is Jay from the Shiplife.
How's it going, guys?
And we are both on the Resilient Lady right now.
Yeah, for now. We catch each other on every other cruise, man, it feels like.
I know. Every time I turn around, there you are. We even ran into each other at the Florida State Fair. I mean, every time I turn around, I'm running into Jay. Well, for those of you who don't know, Jay has one of the largest cruise channels on YouTube.
Soon to be the largest.
Soon to be the largest.
Look, a man can dream.
Hey, it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
That's the plan.
His channel is blowing up, and outside of cruising, we also have a lot of other interests that kind of coalesce with one another.
Yes.
He's from the entertainment industry. I'm from the entertainment industry. We actually know and hang out with a lot of the same people.
It's a small world.
It is a very
small world.
So, for those who don't know, how did your channel get started? How did the Shiplife come about?
It was actually super random. So, long story short, prior to working on, I used to work for Norwegian.
You used to work for
That's
Norwegian?
That's where I started. Prior to that, I was an international tour manager for the Harlem Globetrotters.
Okay.
And I've been with them for 6 years. Started out as a dancer for them, and then I was working at theme parks, Busch Gardens, Universal, all that jazz. And then after I got my contract from Norwegian, at the time I wanted to start a podcast about travel, because I'd already traveled with the Globetrotters. I've been to, at that time with them, I think it's like 32 countries.
Wow.
And for me, growing up, I didn't have a lot of money. Family didn't have a lot of money, but I always wanted to travel. And once I got a taste of it, I said, I'm going to find a way to do this more.
Now, you weren't dancing with them. You were just their tour manager.
Originally, I was. So I was a dancer. I was a dancer for them for 2 years, and basically the roadie. I was the road crew. I had to haul all the, we just did like pregame and halftime, and then we'd have to haul all the equipment, load it onto the truck, load it off into the snow and all that other stuff. And I was a stage manager, and then I got promoted to international tour manager.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Worked my way up, the corporate ladder thing.
Hey, I understand how that goes. So then from the Globetrotters, is that when you started your channel after that?
No, I ended up leaving the Globetrotters. It was one of those things for me where I had a big decision to make if that was what I want to do for, essentially, to me at the time, the rest of my life. Like, did I want to retire off of the Globetrotters coin, I said, the corporate thing is nice, but it's not really for me. And I don't want to be leaving. Our tour started on Christmas every year.
Yeah.
So, I got my son. I had presents for 6 years straight. Presents straight to the airport. I got tired of that. So I ended up leaving. And then it was rough, man. Christmas. So after I left, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was doing gigs here and there around Tampa Bay area. And then that entertainment company I worked for called ESP, Event Show Productions, we were flying out all over the place. And I was doing car detailing on the side. And then in between that, because, the entertainment lifestyle is very... You get one big gig, one gig pays maybe a couple grand, one pays 100, and me being a street performer, a breakdancer and street acrobat, flipping over people and head spinning, a lot of companies don't know how to pay you accordingly.
Yes.
So they want you to give you $100, $500. So the gigs were very up and down. Some I'd say yes to, most of them. Some I'd say no. And in between that, I got into Uber, actually.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, okay, it's a cool little side hustle. Let me go ahead, and this will probably just working in the full spectrum of the gig economy.
What's great is you can do it in and out of the gigs, right?
Yes.
So if you've got a gig, you go to your gig.
Yeah.
If you don't have a gig, you can drive.
But there's slow months, like for example, of course, springtime is good for gigs. In between, right before summer is not good. Right after summer is getting into the Halloween season, so it's very inconsistent. So I would make money doing that as well. And then in between that, I had no idea, once again, what I wanted to do. And at one point, things really slowed down. This is like, I want to say 2016 for me at the time. And then there was Globetrotters in between, and this is like going into 2017. And I got into a car accident. I was sitting in a red light. A truck, Ford pickup just comes in and slams into the back of my car.
Wow.
Car's total. And again, at that time, that was either half or primarily how I was making my living doing Uber.
By the way, that's actually how I met my wife. She had gotten into an accident, and it's a very strange, long story, but she had gotten rear-ended, sort of like you did, going to a chiropractor. She met a friend there, and her friend would come out to a club that I used to play at. So it was because of her accident how we met.
It's funny how things work, right?
It is, absolutely.
So at that time, I was in therapy. I was looking at a settlement in court. They said looking at maybe at bottom of the barrel, like 10 to 20,000. Said maybe it could be upwards 50. All right, it says it's going to be at least 6 months to a year before we even talk about settlements. right? Out of nowhere, while I'm in therapy, I'm like halfway through the process, and I'm feeling better. You know, back's kind of jacked up. This guy reaches out to me that I hadn't talked to in years. He was originally one of the managers over at Busch Gardens, and over in Tampa, because I know there's two, right? Tampa Busch Gardens. We never really talked that often, but at that time, you know that trainer unfortunately was killed by the whale, and Blackfish came out.
Yep.
SeaWorld owns Busch Gardens,
Yes.
Venture Island, a couple of different parks, and since people weren't going to SeaWorld as much, they lost the budget, which indirectly, because of that, Busch Gardens, their budget went down as well. So they started laying off a lot of the higher management that was essentially making too much money for the company. So they fired this guy. But lo and behold, a lot of the managers that got laid off, because we live in Florida and entertainment, there's primarily the theme parks and cruise ships.
Yes.
A lot of them ended up becoming management for the cruise lines. You got Royal Caribbean Carnival over in Miami, and then you have entertainment for Norwegian's headquarters in Tampa, just outside of Tampa and Riverview. So this guy ends up going over there. He reaches out to me out of nowhere. He said, "Hey Jay," I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" He's like, "Are you still dancing?" By the way, he contacted me on Facebook. I said, yeah, I lied to him. Yeah, of course. He's like, "Look, so I might have an opportunity. Can I give you a call?" I said, "Sure." And he's like, "Yeah, man. So we have this show on one of the Norwegian ships called After Midnight. It's an African American Broadway show, and we happen to need an African American hip hop dancer. You know, in entertainment, most of you may not know, but there's something called typecasting. They are allowed to legally and understandably discriminate based off of what they need.
It's a casting thing.
Yes, it's a casting thing. It's just entertainment. Same with acting and whatever other entertainment spectrum you're looking at.
You see that in any movies?
Yes.
Right. I mean, they're cast by type.
Yeah. So he's like, dude, you're still dancing, man. I think you'd be perfect for the job. And I said, "Oh, really?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Have you heard of it?" I'm like, "Yeah, I have friends that are already doing the show." It's like, "Okay, well, can you pass the drug test?" I said, yeah, of course. You know, we went, we did the test and paperwork. Next thing I know, I'm in a room full of all these Broadway people. You know, pa-pow, pa-pow, pa-pow. And I'm like, oh, okay, you know. It was cool. It was cool, right? And then when I got on the ship, that was my first true contact. I worked with Carnival for like 2 weeks at one point because they used to hire breakdancers on board, but they were hired through a third-party company called G-Force. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, for a lot of the street dancers, a lot of us come from nothing, right? And it's like, so when you go from having nothing to then having beautiful islands around you, honestly, beautiful women around you, all these temptations, and a very carefree sort of lifestyle, simple lifestyle working on the cruise ship. A lot of guys don't know how to act. They ended up breaking the ties with the company as far as hiring the breakdancers, so that was gone. That's why I was only there for 2 weeks. The other guys had already kind of messed it up. Yeah, so I get on the ship, and I'm like, okay, it's my first full contract, so I actually got a full spectrum of like what the life was like. And I said, wow, this is cool. And I had one start a podcast on travel because podcasting was just starting to kind of like,
right,
you know, with Joe Rogan and all these other podcasts were popping up out of nowhere. And I'm like, okay, well, let me see if I can start that up. Obviously, as you can imagine, on a cruise ship, the Wi-Fi is not the greatest. So I'm like, okay, we can't go live, can't do this, can't do that. So you know what? I'll just maybe go to YouTube.
So you're switching from the podcast to YouTube happened during your first contract when you were on NCL.
Yes, and because at the time when I was there, I was the kind of guy, even since high school, I've hung out with everybody. Right? I don't care if you're the cool kid, popular. I was always the guy in between. I knew the popular kids, but they weren't like my clique. Right? So on the ship, it's like that too. Entertainment typically hangs out with entertainment. The youth counselors hang out with youth counselors, vice versa. And of course, romantically, it's just kind of like the dancers will be at the officers, blah, blah, blah. And it doesn't really go any further than that. I hung out with the maitre d's, the waiters, spa staff, youth counselors, and while I'm there, I'm hearing all this stuff. Some stuff was interesting, some stuff was illegal. And you know, I'm like, wow, this is such a taboo. Yes. And I'm like, this is such a taboo, weird, but amazing environment. It's like the world condensed. Because on my ship, right, with 2,000 crew members, 75 different nationalities on board. I said, wow, that's so cool. I said, you know what, maybe I'll just make a video just talking about what it's like working on cruise ships. So I was just bored one day, no, given at the time. Nobody on cruise ships, I kid you not, and you guys ever know anybody who worked on ships? I don't know anybody that had the type of contract that I had, right? At the time, I was making like just over $4,000 a month with my contract, but I was only working like 2 days a week. I was a primary character in the show, and I only had one show. So we had 2 shows per night. And
so no extra duties is what you're trying to say.
No extra duties.
For those who don't know, most of the entertainers, when they come on a ship, they have multiple things they do outside of their show.
And they usually have multiple shows as well.
Correct. And so they're you know, when there's a muster drill, there are people that are doing that. When there's people going off for shore excursions, they're helping with that. Yes. Some of them will pick up extra jobs in shops and do all kinds of things. But as a primary, you don't have to do that.
And also I had guest privileges. I had room service. I had a little tiny cabin, you know. So I was like, okay, it was cool. But I had all this time. It's like, okay, I was working out, getting all buff, you know. And I said, okay, I need to find something more productive. We have every island off, every port, but you can only go to a Cozumel so many times where you're like, okay, I've already rented a car, I've done scuba diving, I've done jet skiing. Let me go, instead of blowing money, let me do something productive. So I took my iPhone 6 in my room, stacked it on some books, and then I just talked about what the first day is like working on cruise ships, right? It's me stumbling through like a 15-minute video.
And that was the start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I was like, okay, I'm gonna upload it, and it'd be cool if it would get like 100 views.
I gotta ask.
Yeah.
When was the last time you went back and watched your very first video?
A couple weeks ago. I try to like regularly go back to remind myself of the progress that I've made, because it's easy once you get to like a point where you can do this for a living, which is very, very rare. It's easy to get either complacent, or you get comfortable, or you just forget where you come from. I try to remind myself, like, look, you started from here. What's up, everybody? Sorry, I was watching Ninjago. Welcome to what will technically be my my first real episode of Shiplife. And now look at where you are.
Right. One of the things doing YouTube is you just have to do it.
Yes.
It's going to be bad the first time.
Yeah.
But you just do it.
I would argue that's anything in life. You know,
it is.
Just go.
You just got to do it.
Yeah.
Right. You'll look. However, this is one of those things you will learn as you go.
Yes. Yes.
Right. There are a lot of things that you already have to have a skill to like dancing. Yes. You have to have that skill. Yeah. You're going to learn as you go. To start
getting gigs and working. Yeah.
As far as YouTube goes, just do it, guys. So you're now YouTubing.
Yep.
When did the switch happen? Right? There's a moment, and all the people out there that are YouTubers, they struggle. Yeah. Right? And they're like, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? What was the one moment for you that if there was one moment that everything turned?
There were several. I mean, the thing is, like, right out of the gate, as you could imagine, something as taboo as working on shits is going to catch some eyes. Like I said, when I posted the video, I said, it'd be cool if the video got like 100. If 100 people watched it, that'd be pretty cool for me. I woke up the next day, 28,000 views.
Wow.
I said, oh. Now, keep in mind, I didn't know anything about YouTube. I didn't know what thumbnails are. That's the cover photo you'll see on the photo, if you guys don't know. I didn't know what thumbnails were. I didn't know what SEO is, search engine optimization. I didn't know what the data analytics. I didn't know about any of that stuff. Titling.
You just put up a video and rolled with it.
Yeah.
But by the way, that doesn't happen all the time.
No,
like first video, 28,000.
That's an anomaly.
An anomaly, especially now.
Yeah. So the thing is, like, I'm on the ship, and I was like, oh, cool. That's a lot of people. And okay, so at that point, I'm like, let me be careful. Whenever I do my videos, I hide all the Norwegian logos, and I never mention. And if I talked about any line, I'd mention all of them as a whole. That way, I'm not just talking about Norwegian and then get fired or something. Right. That's what everybody's worried with. So in between that, I started making more videos. I did a tour of my little tiny, we call it a Jack and Jill cabin. It's a tiny cabin. You have it to yourself, but you're sharing the bathroom. Well, we call it a shoilet. It's a shower toilet combination.
A shoilet.
Disgusting. It's like, dude, I don't, look, I have a weird, I'm not afraid of toilets, but I don't like cleaning toilets. I do it at home, obviously, because I have to. I'm like, it's my own thing. It's my house. But like, even then, I'm like, okay, I'm sharing it with this guy, and sure, the room steward may come in once a week and clean it. But if I'm taking a shower, right, it was like this shower where, you ever see like the what is that, like the shower curtains, the white ones where you can see like kind of the dirt gathering on the, it was like that. Yeah. In the shower, and I can feel it touch. I can feel like the shower.
There's no glass in there.
Yeah, I can feel the curtain and like the back of the toilet because it's so small, like touching the back of my leg, and I'm like, I hated that part.
Toilet.
So I showed them all that, and then in between that, a friend had what's called an officer cabin. So the crew, they'll have like something the highest, like let's say our suites, for example, on our for the crew areas would be known as a petty officer cabin and officer cabin. Obviously, true to its name, most people that have it are officers on board, like the people that are similar to like the captain, that are just below the captain, but the higher entertainment, like for example, like the singers, the ones that ours premiere, and there were people that were like, I guess you could say ultra premiere. They had those. I did a tour of that one. I had a friend that worked in the spa. She was leaving, so she just kind of divulged all the stuff she's experienced on board. And then in between that, I showed them the crew bar. The channel's just growing. Finished my contract. I had 7,000 subscribers.
So this was all during the first contract?
Yeah, and this is within, and keep in mind, this is
6 months?
No, this is within like a month and a half.
Month and a half.
Like, so it's like toward the end of my contract, which I wish I had started earlier because I didn't know it was going to do that. I said, okay, cool. But I still didn't know. I knew that it was possible to make money on YouTube. I didn't know how. I had no idea, even at that point, how anything worked. So I get back, and at that time, I had a little money. So I'm like, okay, let me go buy a new car. Not even new. I bought a 2015 Kia Optima, right? And I was like, okay, well, at that time, I was getting ready to go to Ireland and go visit some friends. And I was like, oh, well, let me get back to Uber. Let me get back to the old grind while I'm here. Make a little bit of money so I don't just start burning all away the cash I just saved up. First guy I pick up, over in Tampa, we have this rich area called Bayshore. It's like $1 million homes, right over by the water, downtown, beautiful. And this kid comes out, right? Well, like nerdy looking kid, he comes out. I'm like, okay, maybe his dad or somebody just like bought the house. He gets in the car. We start talking. And the thing is, as you can see, I'm a talker, right? And it comes up. He's like, you don't just do like Uber. There's no way. You have you think you have a big personality. You do anything else? I'm like, I work for Norwegian. I just finished my contract. I'm a dancer. I do gigs here and there. And I don't know why I threw it out there. Like, I got this YouTube channel. It's got a couple thousand. I might see what I can do. I heard you make money on YouTube. He starts laughing. He's like, dude, no way. Technically, Google paid for this house. I do YouTube as well. And I'm like, no way. No way. He shows me a shot. I said, look, 12 million followers.
Who was it?
12 million. Look, that's the crazy part.
You don't remember who it was?
I don't remember who it was because at that time, I didn't even think. I didn't add him on Instagram. It was one ear and out the other because as far as I'm concerned, I apologize, but I thought he was just like pulling my leg. He said, 12 million followers. I'm like, okay, maybe he is actually making that kind of money. But again, it didn't process to me. And he goes, yeah, let me see your channel. And it wasn't Ninja or anybody, by the way. Like none of those, I don't know who it was. But those gaming channels, there's so many of them with like millions.
Yeah.
But anyway, he's like, yeah, let me see your channel. And I'm like, oh, it's okay, bro. At 7,000, He looks at it. He goes, dude, it's like you've only been on YouTube for like a month. You got 7,000 subscribers, and you're pulling these kind of views. Like I would imagine you've already had like 1 million views. I said, yeah, maybe like 2 weeks ago, and 1 million views in a month. And he's like, dude, it took me 3 years to get to that point. So you might have found a gold mine. It's like, I don't mean to get in your business, but are you monetized? You got any merch? Are you on Google's AdSense, like with their monetization partnership? Are you getting any donations, anything? And I'm like, no.
It's all going over your head.
Yeah. Like,
partner, what?
Throwing all these terms. I'm like, dude, what does that mean? He's like, no. He's like, dude, like you could easily be making $5,000-$10,000 a month with this if you apply yourself within like a year. And I'm like,
get out of here.
Stop it, bro. Like seriously, he's like, yeah. Like, look, he's like, I get it. You're doing your Uber grind thing, man, but like. You're taking me to Starbucks right now. That's where I have the destination. Come, if you have free time, just come in here. I'll break everything down for you. It's like, I promise you, in a year, you could be making more money than you're making doing Uber or potentially anything else you've ever done. I'm like, okay. It's funny how things work. So we get there and talk, and he's like breaking everything down. So he's like, dude, like YouTube isn't just a video watching thing. It's a platform. And on that platform, if you can create value in any way, whether it be from humor, entertainment, knowledge, information, however you want to do it, that can be monetized. And there are people out there, Google in this case, that will pay you for keeping people on the platform and giving them value. So you talked about what's called Google AdSense. That's their partnership program. You reach the threshold of 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 hours of watch time within a year. I found out, I looked back at my analytics, I did that my first 2 weeks on YouTube.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's great.
Oh, okay. So I immediately did the program. It took like 2 weeks for it to get processed through. After I got approved, my first check was just over $300 from YouTube.
That's great.
And like on YouTube, they don't pay out. If it's under $100, they won't pay out. They'll roll it over to the next.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, maybe I'll get past $100 now this is going. So it's like I think it's like $347, something like that. But I'm like, I made this money using my cell phone, just making videos. Okay, let's keep this going then. And given I'm not on the ship anymore, and I'm talking about what it's like working on ship. So naturally, the channel just dives, right? So I was lucky averaging between $300 to $400. So I was still doing Uber at the time. I'm like, something tells me to let's keep rolling with this, see what happens. This is all 2019. Where it's like they would kidnap Americans and like pay to torture them. 5 years ago, I was homeless living in my car as an Uber driver. I'd never forget that. Everyone, I kid you not, just about, I want to say like 99% of people were like, dude, you're an idiot. You have no idea what you're talking about. Stop trying to scare people. Tell people I'm not like an expert in cruising. I don't think anybody really is, or expert in travel.